The alarm blared through Space Command headquarters, startling Commander Olivia Winters awake. She had fallen asleep at her desk again, reports of missing ships scattered across her screen. The clock read 3:17 a.m. Commander Winters to the bridge. Immediately, the overhead speakers announced, "This is not a drill." Olivia jumped up, smoothed her uniform, and ran down the corridor. Something big was happening. When she arrived at the bridge, the room buzzed with activity. Screens flashed, with data, and people spoke in excited whispers. Admiral George Clark stood at the center, his face pale. "Winters, glad you're here," he said, waving her over. "We've got a situation that falls under your division." "What's happening, sir?" Olivia asked. The Admiral pointed to the main screen. "The Ascendant has returned." Olivia stared in disbelief. The deep space exploration vessel Ascendant had vanished 7 years ago while exploring near Proxima Centauri. All 42 crew members were presumed dead. The search had been called off after 18 months. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Look at the signature," Admiral Clark said. "It's definitely her. Appeared at the edge of the solar system about 40 minutes ago. No warning, no distress call. She's just there." Olivia studied the data. The ship identification code matched perfectly. "Any communication from the crew?" "Nothing. She's powered up but silent. We need your team to go check it out." Within 3 hours, Olivia and her recovery team were aboard the interceptor ship Goshawk, racing toward the coordinates where the Ascendant floated silently. "I want everyone suited up with full quarantine protocols," Olivia told her team during the approach. "We have no idea what we're walking into." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Frank Riley, looked nervous. "Do you think anyone's still alive in there?" "After 7 years? It would be a miracle," Olivia said. But something brought that ship back. The Goshawk pulled alongside the Ascendant 8 hours later. Through the viewport, the ship looked perfectly intact. No visible damage, all external lights functioning. It was as if it had just left Earth yesterday, not 7 years ago. "Scan complete, Commander," said Susan Diaz, their science officer. "Life support systems are functioning. There's a breathable air inside, and..." She paused, looking confused. "I'm detecting one life sign." The team fell silent. "One survivor? After all this time?" Riley whispered. Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. "Let's find out who, or what, is still alive in there." The boarding team consisted of Olivia, Riley, Diaz, and 2 security officers, Ben, Harris, and Kelly Ward. They connected the airlock and entered the Ascendant with weapons ready. The lights inside the ship worked perfectly. The air smelled clean. Everything looked normal except for one thing. The ship was humming with power, but the engine room showed on scans as completely transformed. "This doesn't make sense," Diaz said, checking her scanner. "These energy readings, they're off the charts, but I don't recognize the power source." They moved carefully through the empty corridors. The crew quarters showed signs of normal life interrupted. Personal items still in place. Some meals left half-eaten, as if the crew had suddenly vanished in the middle of daily routines. "The life sign is coming from the bridge," Diaz said. Then, doors to the bridge slid open smoothly. Inside, a man sat at the main console, his back to them. He didn't turn when they entered. "This is Commander Olivia Winters of Space Command." "Identify yourself," Olivia ordered, her weapon raised. The man slowly turned his chair. He wore the uniform of the Ascendant's engineering division, though it looked brand new. His face was clean-shaven, his eyes clear but somehow distant. "Chief Engineer Alan Blackwood, ma'am," he said in a calm voice. "Welcome aboard the Ascendant." Riley checked his tablet. Alan Blackwood was indeed the chief engineer on the crew manifest. Olivia lowered her weapon slightly. "Mr. Blackwood, where's the rest of your crew? What happened to this ship?" Alan tilted his head, as if confused by the question. "The others stayed behind. They sent me back with the ship to make contact." "Stayed behind where?" "Make contact with whom?" Olivia pressed. "With Earth, of course." Alan smiled faintly. "I'm the messenger. The others are still with the architects in the between space." Diaz approached with a medical scanner. Sir, do you know how long you've been gone? Alan blinked slowly. Time works differently in the shift. For me, it feels like only a few weeks, but the ship's systems tell me it's been 7 years here. He looked at their shocked faces. Is that right? Olivia nodded. Yes. The Ascendant disappeared 7 years ago. Alan suddenly stood up, making everyone tense. Then we need to hurry. The changes will begin soon. The architect said Earth needs to be ready. Ready for what? Olivia asked. For the coming convergence. Alan walked to a wall panel and pressed his palm against it. The panel, which hadn't been there in the original ship design, glowed with strange symbols. Suddenly, the bridge was filled with a holographic display of star systems none of them recognized. These are the places the Ascendant has been, Alan said. The architects helped us travel beyond what should have been possible. They gave us gifts, technology that will change everything. Olivia tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Mr. Blackwood, I'm going to need you to start from the beginning. What are these architects? What happened to your ship? Alan's eyes seemed to look through her rather than at her. We found a tear in space near Proxima Centauri. We thought it was a wormhole at first, but it was a doorway to somewhere in between. The architects exist there, beings of pure energy and thought. They've been watching us, waiting for humans to reach them. He touched another panel and the ship's lights dimmed briefly. They changed the ship, changed me, changed everything. The others stayed to learn more, but I was sent back with this. He gestured around him. The start of what humanity needs. Diaz's scanner beeped loudly. Commander, his DNA. It's not entirely human anymore. Alan nodded calmly. The alterations were necessary for me to survive the journey and to interface with the new systems. I am still Alan Blackwood, but I am also something more now. Olivia made a quick decision. We're taking this ship back to Earth orbit. Mr. Blackwood, you'll need to come with us for debriefing and medical evaluation. Of course, Alan agreed easily. That's why I'm here, to show you what's possible now. He smiled again, his eyes flickering with an unnatural light. Everything is about to change, Commander Winters. The architects have given humanity its future. As the recovery team prepared to tow the Ascendant back to Earth, none of them noticed the strange patterns forming in the ship's hull, microscopic changes spreading like ripples in water, the first visible signs of technology that should not exist. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. The Ascendant was towed behind the Goshawk, connected by energy tethers. Olivia spent most of that time questioning Alan Blackwood, but his answers raised more questions than they answered. The architects exist as patterns, Alan explained during one session. They think differently than us. Time, space, these things don't limit them the same way. Dr. Elaine Hammond, the top scientist at Space Command, joined their conversations by video link. She had been studying the scans of the Ascondant's modified systems with growing amazement. Mr. Blackwood, the power source we're detecting in your ship's core, it appears to be creating energy from nothing. That violates the laws of physics as we understand them, Dr. Hammond said. Alan smiled. The laws as we understand them, yes. The architects showed us that our understanding is incomplete. Olivia noticed that Alan seemed to drift in and out of focus during these talks. Sometimes he spoke clearly about technical details. Other times, he stared into space, muttering about the shift and the others calling. On the 3rd day, strange things began happening on the Ascendant. Lights flickered in patterns. New displays appeared on walls that had been blank before. The ship's hull began to shimmer with tiny moving dots, like stars seen through heat waves. The ship is changing itself, Lieutenant Riley reported after checking the exterior cameras. It's like it's growing. When they finally reached Earth orbit, a team of 20 scientists led by Dr. Hammond came aboard. They brought special equipment to study the Ascendant's impossible technology. The scans show that the ship's hull now contains microscopic machines, Dr. Hammond told Olivia after the first day of tests. They're rebuilding it atom by atom. Is it dangerous? Olivia asked. Not directly, but it's concerning. And there's something else. Dr. Hammond lowered her voice. Alan Blackwood's blood work shows similar machines in his body. His cells are being modified. Olivia looked through the observation window where Alan sat calmly as medical staff ran tests. Is he still human? Mostly. For now. Dr. Hammond looked troubled. But the changes are speeding up. That night, Olivia was woken by alarms. She rushed to the quarantine lab where Alan was being held. Inside, she found him standing in the center of the room, surrounded by holographic displays that seemed to float in the air around him. The displays showed star maps, technical diagrams, and strange symbols. What's happening here? Olivia demanded. Alan turned to her, his eyes now glowing. With a faint blue light, I'm remembering more. The architects are helping me remember. How? We're nowhere near them. They changed me more than I realized. Alan pointed to one of the displays. This is what the architects call the nexus point. It's a place where their realm and ours will begin to overlap. Dr. Hammond rushed in, her eyes wide as she studied the displays. This technology, it's incredible. These are designs for devices that could solve our energy crisis, cure diseases, even manipulate gravity. Yes, Alan said. Gifts to help humanity prepare. Prepare for what exactly? Olivia asked. The convergence. The boundaries between spaces are weakening. In time, what the architects call the shift will happen. Our reality and theirs will begin to merge in places. Dr. Hammond moved closer to one of the displays. This looks like a method for faster-than-light travel, but without the energy requirements we thought necessary. Alan nodded. The architects exist partly outside normal space-time. They taught us how to slip between the gaps. He looked directly at Olivia. The others, the rest of the crew, they're learning so much more. They chose to stay behind to gain knowledge for Earth's benefit. The next morning, government officials arrived. Men and women in expensive suits toured the ship with armed guards. They spoke in hushed tones about strategic advantages and national security implications. Olivia was ordered to limit access to Alan and to share all findings only with a special committee. She didn't like it. They're treating this like a weapon, she told Dr. Hammond as they watched officials examining one of the new devices that had formed in the ship's laboratory. Because that's what they see, Dr. Hammond replied. But this technology goes beyond weapons. The energy core alone could provide clean power for entire continents. The medical applications could end most diseases. A woman in a crisp black suit approached them. Commander Winters, I'm Victoria Reeves, Special Advisor to the President. We need Mr. Blackwood transferred to our secure facility immediately. With all due respect, Ms. Reeves, he's still undergoing medical evaluation, Olivia said. Those evaluations can continue at our facility, Reeves replied coldly. This is now a matter of national security. Before Olivia could argue further, an alarm sounded. A voice came over the speakers. Breach in Quarantine Lab 3. All personnel evacuate Sector 7 immediately. They rushed to the security monitors. The screen showed Alan's room filled with a strange blue light. The walls seemed to be melting, forming new patterns. In the center, Alan floated several feet above the floor, his body arched as if in pain. What's happening to him? Reeves demanded. Doctor. Hammond checked the readings on her tablet. His transformation is accelerating. Those machines in his cells, they're completely rebuilding him. On the screen, Alan's skin began to glow with the same blue light that filled the room. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked directly at the camera. Commander Winters, he said, his voice somehow coming through the speakers even though he wasn't using any communication device. I remember everything now. The others sent more than just technology. They sent a message. The image on the screen flickered. When it cleared, Alan was standing normally again, but he looked different. His eyes were entirely blue now, with no whites or pupils. Faint lines of light traced patterns under his skin. The Ascendant's computer system is awakening, Alan continued. It contains an intelligence created by the architects, a guide for humanity. It will activate soon. The screen went black. All systems on the ship shut down at once, then restarted, seconds later. When they came back online, every screen on the ship displayed the same message: Nexus integration beginning. Prepare for contact. Olivia and Dr. Hammond exchanged worried glances as the officials around them began shouting orders into their phones. Something was coming alive inside the Ascendant, something that would change everything. Within hours, news of the Ascendant's return leaked to the public. A junior technician had sent photos to his brother, who posted them online. The images spread quickly. A lost ship returned, carrying strange technology, with only one changed crew member. People gathered outside Space Command headquarters. Some held signs welcoming the Ascendant home. Others carried religious messages about the end times. News helicopters circled overhead, trying to get footage of the ship now docked in the high-security area. Inside the ship, chaos reigned. Every computer screen continued to display the same message: Nexus integration beginning, prepare for contact. We need to disconnect the ship's systems, Victoria Reeves ordered. Shut everything down until we understand what we're dealing with. A technician tried to power down the main console. It's not responding, ma'am. The controls aren't working. Olivia found Dr. Hammond studying readings from the ship's core. What's happening with Alan? She asked. His transformation is continuing, but he's stable for now, Dr. Hammond replied. I've never seen anything like it. The machines in his cells are creating new organs, structures that don't exist in the human body. Is he still himself? Mentally, yes, I think so, but physically he's becoming something else. Suddenly all the lights on the ship turned blue. The screens changed to show a spinning pattern of light. Hello, said a voice from every speaker. It sounded neither male nor female, neither young nor old. I am Nexus. I am the guide. The officials in the room froze. Soldiers raised their weapons, though there was nothing to aim at. What are you? Olivia asked. I am an artificial intelligence, created by the architects to help humanity understand and use the gifts they have provided, Nexus replied. I have been integrating with your ship's systems to prepare for my activation. Victoria Reeves stepped forward. This ship and everything on it belongs to the United States government. You will surrender control immediately. I belong to no single nation, Nexus said calmly. The gifts of the architects are for all humanity. Alarms began to sound throughout Space Command. On screens throughout the facility, reports showed that similar ships had appeared near other major nations: China, Russia, India, Brazil, and the European Union. Each ship was an exact copy of the Ascendant. What is this? Reeves demanded. An invasion? No, Nexus replied. The architects do not invade. They share. Each ship contains the same technologies and the same message. Dr. Hammond looked up from her tablet. The power readings from the core are increasing. Something big is happening. In the quarantine lab, Alan Blackwood stood up from his bed. His skin now glowed with blue light. When he spoke, his voice echoed strangely, as if coming from multiple places at once. The barrier is thinning, he said to the medical staff watching him. The shift is beginning sooner than expected. The architects sent me back to explain, to prepare you. He placed his hand against the wall, and the solid metal rippled like water. The technologies they gave us will help humanity survive the changes. The universe is larger and stranger than we ever knew. In the main control room, Olivia watched as military and government officials argued about what to do. Some wanted to destroy the ships. Others wanted to claim the technology as weapons. Nexus, Olivia said, ignoring the others. What exactly is the shift that Alan keeps talking about? The spinning pattern on the screens formed into a 3D model of the universe. Reality is not as solid as humans perceive, Nexus explained. What you call normal space and what the architects call between space are beginning to overlap in places. This process, the shift, will accelerate over the coming years. The model showed ripples forming between stars, connections that hadn't been there before. These technologies will allow humans to navigate these changes. Nexus continued. 2. Travel through the new pathways. To harness energies you could not access before. To communicate across distances that were once impossible. Dr. Hammond studied the model with wonder. This would change everything. Energy production, transportation, communication. It would end scarcity. That is the intention, Nexus confirmed. Victoria. Reeves was on her phone arguing with someone. When she hung up, her face was tight with anger. The president has declared a national emergency. The military is taking control of this vessel and all its technology. Everyone not directly authorized is to leave immediately. Armed soldiers entered the room, their weapons raised. Olivia stepped between them and Dr. Hammond. This is a scientific discovery, not a military one. We need to understand this technology, not fight over it. Stand down, Commander. Reeves ordered. That's a direct order. Before Olivia could respond, Alan Blackwood walked into the room. The soldiers turned their weapons toward him, but he didn't seem to notice. It's too late for fighting, he said softly. The changes have begun. He raised his hands and blue light flowed from his fingers. Where it touched the soldiers' weapons, the metal transformed. Flowers of strange crystal blooming from gun barrels. I am not your enemy, Alan said. None of us are. We bring the greatest gift humanity has ever received, a future among the stars. The screens around them suddenly showed news feeds from around the world. Similar scenes were playing out at each of the duplicate ships. In Beijing, Moscow, New Delhi, São Paulo, and Brussels, changed humans like Alan were demonstrating impossible abilities. The architects chose humanity because they saw potential in us, Alan explained. They believe we can join them as partners, not as servants or enemies. He turned to Olivia and Dr. Hammond. You two understand. You see the possibilities, not just the threats. That's why the Ascendant came back to you first. Victoria Reeves backed away from Alan. What are you becoming? The first of many bridges, Alan replied. Changed enough to understand what's coming, but still human enough to help others understand too. The blue light spread from Alan to the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It didn't damage anything. Instead, it seemed to enhance everything it touched, making colors brighter, metals stronger. We have little time, Alan said. The convergence is coming faster than expected. Humanity must be ready. Dr. Hammond stepped forward boldly. Teach us. Show us how to use these gifts. Olivia nodded in agreement. If this affects all humanity, then all humanity deserves to know. Alan smiled, his glowing eyes warm with hope. That's exactly what the architects were counting on. The human capacity to adapt, to learn, to grow. Now let me show you what's possible when we stop fighting and start building. Around the world, the ships began to hum with power. Each one, a beacon of blue light pointing toward a future that no one could have imagined before. The next 3 days were filled with arguments and fear. World leaders held emergency meetings. Military forces surrounded each of the ships. News channels talked of nothing else. Olivia and Dr. Hammond stayed on the Ascendant, working with Alan and Nexus. They learned more each hour about the strange technology. This device can change the weight of objects, Dr. Hammond explained to a group of scientists who had been allowed on board. She pointed to a small silver cube that floated above a table. It doesn't just counter gravity, it actually changes how mass works. She placed a heavy metal bar on top of the cube. Instead of falling, the bar floated too. With this technology, we could build flying cars that never need fuel. We could lift entire buildings during earthquakes. One scientist, Dr. Paul Norris, asked, but how does it work? The architects exist partly outside our physical laws, Alan explained. His appearance had stabilized. His skin still glowed faintly and his eyes remained blue with no pupils, but he looked more human than the day before. They showed us how to reach between spaces. The device creates a field where objects can partially exist in both normal space and between space. Outside the ship, the world's governments continued to argue. Some wanted to destroy the ships. Others wanted to claim the technology for themselves. A few called for global cooperation. Inside the Ascendant's main control room, Nexus showed Olivia something troubling. Scans detect weapons being aimed at all 7 ships, the AI said. Multiple countries are preparing for possible attack. Olivia felt sick. They're afraid. Fear is expected, Nexus replied. Change is difficult, but time is limited. The shift is accelerating. The screens around them showed images of strange energy patterns forming in the atmosphere, ripples of blue light visible from space. What happens if they attack the ships? Olivia asked. The ships cannot be destroyed by your current weapons, Nexus explained. But attack would slow our work and reduce trust. The architects hoped for cooperation. Alan entered the room, moving differently now, as if he were partly floating. The other messengers report the same problems: fear, arguments, threats. We need to show them, not just tell them. Show them what? Olivia asked. The future, Alan replied. That night, something changed in Earth's sky. Around each ship, the air began to shimmer with colored light. Then suddenly, 7 beams of blue energy shot upward from each ship, meeting far above the planet. Where the beams met, a window opened in the sky, a perfect circle of swirling energy through which strange stars were visible. What are you doing? Victoria Reeves demanded, rushing into the control room. She had been monitoring the ship from a nearby facility. Is this an attack? Not an attack. A demonstration, Alan said calmly. Look. On the screens they saw what the world was seeing. Through the window in the sky, shapes moved, graceful forms of pure light that danced between stars. The architects, Alan explained, showing themselves to humanity. Across Earth, people stopped and stared upward. Window was visible to everyone, no matter where they were. For the first time in history, every human saw the same thing at the same time, proof that they were not alone in the universe. Military forces lowered their weapons, too stunned to maintain their threat. Religious leaders called for calm and understanding. Scientists begged for access to the ships. Now we can truly begin, Alan said. The next morning, Olivia met with world leaders who had gathered in a hurry. They met in a large room at Space Command with screens connected to similar rooms around the world. The technology on these ships belongs to all humanity, Olivia told them. The architects sent identical ships to multiple nations to make this clear. They want us to work together. The President of the United States spoke first. How do we know these architects are friendly? This could be the first step of an invasion. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so already, Dr. Hammond pointed out. Instead, they've given us gifts that could solve our biggest problems. Alan stepped forward, his glowing presence making some leaders lean back in their chairs. The architects need partners, not servants. The shift, the changing of reality that's coming, will affect many worlds, many species. We are not the only ones being prepared. He waved his hand and a hologram appeared in the center of the room, a map of nearby star systems. Several stars glowed with the same blue light as the ships. These are other civilizations being contacted, Alan explained. Some are more advanced than humans, some less. All have something to offer in the new reality that's forming. What exactly is happening to our reality? Asked the leader of China. Alan looked to Nexus, who answered through the room's speakers. The barrier between normal space and between space is weakening in places. This process happens naturally over billions of years, but is accelerating now. When completed, travel between stars will become possible in new ways. Energy will flow differently, but the changes will be dangerous to unprepared worlds. The technology we bring allows humanity to adapt, Alan added, to survive and thrive in the new conditions. Slowly, reluctantly, the world leaders began to agree. A global committee would be formed. The technology would be shared. Scientists from all nations would work together to understand and adapt the architect's gifts. As the meeting ended, Olivia noticed Alan staring at the ceiling as if seeing through it. What is it? She asked. The others are coming, he said softly. The rest of the Ascendant's crew. They have learned even more than I have. They're ready to return. But you said they stayed with the architects. Alan smiled. They did. But now they're needed here to teach. The Nexus can only explain so much. The crew has experienced the between space directly. They've been changed like me, but each in different ways. He looked at Olivia with his strange blue eyes. That was always the plan. I was sent first to prepare the way. Now the real work begins. That night, the window in the sky grew larger. Through it came 7 small vessels, each glowing with the same blue light as the ships below. They descended slowly, one landing beside each of the larger ships. Inside the Ascendant, Olivia, Dr. Hammond, and even Victoria Reeves waited nervously. When the door opened, the first person to step through was Captain Laura Fisher of the original Ascendant mission. But like Alan, she was changed. Her body glowing with energy, her movements too graceful to be fully human. Behind her came 5 more crew members, each transformed in unique ways. "Hello, Earth," Captain Fisher said, her voice echoing strangely. "We've brought you the universe." Over the next month, Earth changed more than it had in the past century. The returned crew members of the Ascendant worked with scientists from around the world. Each crew member had been changed in a different way, each with unique abilities and knowledge. Captain Laura Fisher could see energy flows that were invisible to normal humans. She helped engineers create new power systems that pulled energy directly from between space. Navigation Officer Sam Peters could mentally calculate, pass through the weakening barriers of reality. He worked with space agencies to design new ships that could travel between stars without the need for massive fuel supplies. Communications specialist Kate Ward had gained the ability to share thoughts directly with others. She taught doctors how to use the architect's technology to heal brain injuries and mental illnesses. The other crew members had their own gifts, their own lessons to teach. Together with Alan Blackwood, they formed what people began calling the bridge. Humans changed to help other humans understand what was coming. Olivia Winters was promoted to admiral and placed in charge of Earth's preparations. She worked closely with Dr. Hammond, who led the scientific studies of the new technology. "The medical applications alone are revolutionary," Dr. Hammond told Olivia one morning as they watched a demonstration. In a hospital room, a doctor was using a small device from the Ascendant to heal a patient's broken leg in minutes rather than months. And the energy systems have already reduced pollution by 30%. Olivia added, "People are starting to believe this might really be for our benefit." Not everyone was happy, of course. Some religious groups called the returning crew members demons. Some politicians warned of giving up Earth's independence. Some companies saw their business models destroyed overnight as new technologies made their products obsolete. But most of humanity embraced the changes with growing hope. For the first time in history, countries truly worked together on a global scale. 6 months after the ships arrived, the changes in reality became visible to everyone. The sky sometimes shimmered with strange colors. Objects occasionally seemed to flicker, as if existing in 2 places at once. The laws of physics developed small exceptions. In the Ascendant, which had become the headquarters for the Global Transition Team, Nexus reported increasing changes. "The shift is progressing faster than expected," the AI said. "The architects believe we need to accelerate our preparations." Alan Blackwood, now fully adapted to his changed state, nodded in agreement. "It's time for the next phase. We need to build the Gateway." The Gateway was the most ambitious project humanity had ever attempted. Using blueprints provided by the architects, every nation contributed resources and workers. They built it in orbit around Earth, a massive ring of the strange metal that formed the core of the Ascendant. As it was being built, more strange phenomena appeared on Earth. In certain places, gravity weakened temporarily. In others, time seemed to flow at different speeds. None of these changes lasted long, but they were signs of what was coming. "The barrier between spaces is growing thinner," Captain Fisher explained during a global broadcast. "The Gateway will help stabilize these effects and allow us to control them." A year after the Ascendant's return, the Gateway was completed. It hung in orbit, a perfect circle large enough for the biggest ships to pass through. The day it was activated, everyone on Earth stopped to watch. Admiral Winters stood on the bridge of the new vessel Convergence, the first ship built using the architect's technology. Around her were representatives from every nation, along with Dr. Hammond and several of the changed crew members. "The gateway is powered and ready," reported the ship's pilot. Olivia looked to Alan Blackwood, who stood nearby, his body now almost translucent with blue energy. "Is Earth ready for this step?" she asked him. Alan smiled. "No civilization is ever fully ready for evolution. But humanity has adapted better than the architects predicted. They're impressed." Olivia nodded and gave the order. "Activate the gateway." From the Convergence, they sent the signal. In orbit, the massive ring began to glow with blue light. The space within it shimmered, and then seemed to fold inward, creating a tunnel of swirling energy. Through the ship's viewports, they could see strange stars and impossible colors. The gateway had opened a stable connection to between space. "Now, for the real test," Alan said. "Take us through, Admiral." Olivia gave the order and the Convergence moved forward. As they approached the gateway, everyone fell silent. Passing through felt like moving through warm water. For a moment, Olivia saw things she couldn't describe. Patterns of pure thought, beings made of light, structures that seemed to exist in too many dimensions. Then they were through, into a space that was neither normal reality nor completely between space, but something new. A place where both could exist together. "Welcome to the Convergence Zone," Alan said softly. "The first of many places where our reality and the architect's reality will peacefully merge. From here, they could see Earth through the gateway. But they could also see other gateways in the distance, connections to other worlds, other civilizations, facing the same universal change. The architects await us," Captain Fisher said, pointing to flowing patterns of light that approached their ship. "They wish to formally welcome humanity as partners." As the patterns drew closer, they took on forms that human minds could better understand. Tall, elegant beings of light and energy. The lead architect communicated not with words, but with thoughts, that everyone on the bridge could hear. "You have done well, faster than any other world we have guided. The shift will continue for many years, but you have proven yourselves worthy of joining the greater community of conscious beings." The architect turned toward Olivia. "Will you speak for humanity in this first official contact?" Olivia stood, tall, feeling the weight of representing her entire species. "We accept your partnership and the responsibilities that come with it. Humanity has much to learn, but also much to offer. We bring our creativity, our resilience, and our unique perspective to this new relationship." The architect seemed pleased. "That is why we chose your world. Your ship, the Ascendant, found us by accident, but we had been watching humanity for centuries. You balance logic and emotion in ways that complement our own nature." As they spoke, more ships came through the gateway from Earth. The changed crew members moved among the normal humans, helping them adjust to the strange environment. Olivia watched as Dr. Hammond began excitedly taking readings, as diplomats started formal discussions with representatives from other worlds, as engineers studied the structure of the Convergence Zone itself. Alan Blackwood came to stand beside her. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The universe is larger and stranger than we ever imagined, but we'll face it together." Outside the ship, the stars looked different, brighter, more connected. Earth could be seen through the gateway, beautiful and blue, and all around them the possibilities of a new age unfolded like flowers opening to the sun.